Welcome to Grit, the Real Estate Growth Mindset podcast, hosted by Brian Charlesworth, founder of Sisu. Sisu provides growth automation software for real estate. You'll hear stories from real estate thought and technology leaders, team owners, and brokers on how they grew their business in a rapidly changing industry. You'll learn how to transform your brokerage and teams into a high-performing and analytics-driven business so you have a new, durable, competitive advantage against disruption in your market. So let's get right into it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Grit Podcast. I'm Brian Charlesworth. I'm the founder of Sisu and your host of the show, and excited for our show today. I'm here today with JD Reese. He's the owner of a somewhat new team called the Genuine Group out of St. George, Utah.
Sunny St. George, baby.
And I've been watching JD for these last 3 years, and he's done some really exciting things. And like for any of you new teams that want to elevate your business and get to that next level, I would say JD is definitely someone you guys are going to want to spend some time with. So on that note, JD, what else do you want to share with us? I know you're a family man. I know you're a dog dad.
Yep, I'm dad.
And now I know you're a Porsche enthusiast.
I am a Porsche enthusiast, big car guy. I also have a skateboarding nonprofit that we do. A buddy of mine set that up a while ago. I'm actually big into skate culture. But yeah, resident of sunny St. George and just loving life down here. But it's hard to not be happy when you live in paradise. So
it's a beautiful area down there. We have a home down there just outside of Snow Canyon.
Yeah.
Anyway, just right when you come down, it's just right on the left right there. And problem is it's always rented, so I don't ever get to stay there. We have owned it for 3 years, and I think I've stayed there twice. So
yeah, I mean the vacation rental market here is still going strong. So that's good news. It would suck if it wasn't rented, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, JD, I've got a lot of stuff I want to ask you about. So
okay.
First off, you started a team 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Why did you start a team?
Honestly, that's a great question. So really what came down for me was I was a builder agent for 4 years, 4.5 years.
You've been a realtor for 9 years total, is that right?
Yeah. Okay. So 4.5, 5, going on 5 years. I was a builder agent for Salisbury Homes, which is quite a big builder in Utah. If you're from Utah, you've probably heard of them. And it was one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had. And one of the most challenging jobs I've ever had. They paid us flat fee on every home we sold. And so it was a numbers game, a lot of hours worked. And to make the money I wanted to make, I had to sell anywhere between 100 to 150 homes a year with them to really make it work. But they were the ones who gave me a chance to jump into real estate. And I did that for 4.5, going on 5 years.
Before you continue, how many homes did you sell? What was your best year with them?
I did like 184 homes one year with them.
On your own?
On my own. Yep. No assistant. No anything other than the processes that I put in. That was the year right before COVID. And all in all, when I was with them, I ended up selling like just over 1,000 homes. It was a lot of production.
184 homes in a year, guys. So again, I just want to bring this up. This is the Grit Podcast. And if you don't have grit, you are not selling 184 homes. So.
No, it was a lot of 15 to 20-hour days. I feel like I would wake up and just start working again. So like I said, it was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. It was also one of the most challenging. They're a very tough company to work inside of just because of the high expectations, but the opportunity that was put in front of me, I just saw it as like, I'm going to capitalize on this. I'm going to build a huge database and I'm going to sell as many homes as I possibly can and do it as long as I can. And so I did that. Well, right after COVID, we had our huge year, and going into 2021, most builders in Southern Utah and Utah in general decided to go, well, we can't maintain or do build jobs anymore, custom build jobs, because we cannot promise the cost of material. So a lot of these builders went to spec homes.
Yep.
Well, because of that, I wasn't a lead rep. We had 3 agents in Southern Utah at the time. And the manager here, she called me in and said, hey, we're going spec only. And mind you, this was about 4 months after we ran out of inventory. She called me, we're going spec only. We won't have specs ready till May. So it was like basically an 8 to 9 month period of me no longer being able to do contracts. And she's like, I really suggest that you probably start figuring something else out, just because when we do the specs, my team's going to be a part of it. And so we're going to be taking a majority of the specs. And basically at that point, I was already kind of feeling like making that next step, but I just didn't know what it was. So I stayed on for about 6 months in 2021 with them and finished out like 80 transactions between January to July. And between that time, I also struck an agreement with them to finish out my contracts, but also that I could sell real estate outside of the builder industry. And that was fine. So January to July, I sold like 20 homes outside of the builder, and I made 10 times the amount of money than if I would have stayed with the builder. And it was super eye-opening. And I was like, holy
Isn't it
cow.
interesting how sometimes when somebody comes to you with a challenge like they did, right? You've been making all this money with them, selling 184 homes a year,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you're faced with you can't sell any homes for the next 9 months. And I'm sure your first thought was not, oh, great, this is like the best opportunity ever for me. Like
Yeah.
it was probably, that fear creeps in.
It
What am
was.
I going to do? How am I going to do it? So, like, how did you make that transition from, okay, I'm working for a builder to I'm now selling and making more money on my own?
So originally it came out of just the opportunity from that first 6 months of like, I guess I'll look at it and see. So all I really did was nothing much different. I used to prospect, we had sit model homes, and something to generate my business is I wouldn't just sit the model home, I'd prospect our leads we generated. So a lender who's actually our in-house lender now, his name's Alex Hernandez, he and I kind of built a platform with Salisbury at the time where we were generating online leads for super low cost, just based off of videos we were making. And the reason why that came to fruition was because at one point, Rick Salisbury, the owner of the company, he came to us and said, hey, I don't want you guys listing on the MLS anymore. We're going to offer a discount directly to the consumer. So that way we can cut out buyer agents. It was something that he's always attempted. He's always offered like a lower buyer agent commission. But at this point, he was like, we're no longer listing on the MLS. And I said, okay, so I got to go direct to the consumer. So Alex and I started generating these leads, and I got really good at prospecting and setting up appointments. And so really all I did was take that prospecting, and all I started doing was calling past clients in our
So
sphere.
JD, let's stop there for a minute because this is something that I think I look at a lot of teams, including my wife's team, 90 agents here in Utah. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge people have today is getting their agents to actually prospect.
Yeah,
I sold real estate for a year and a half, and I had an expectation I had to make a certain amount, which was way more than $100,000 a year, and which is what most agents dream of making, right? Is they
right.
come in brand new because they've never made that much. And so I knew what I had to do to get there. And I'm guessing it's similar with you. Like, you have these income aspirations and know what you need to do to get there. So, like, I want to know how many conversations were you having a day at that point? And I don't know if you're still doing this as a team leader. Are you still in production?
Yes, I'm still in production. I prospect an hour to an hour and a half every single day,
Okay. And
including Saturdays.
prospecting an hour and a half a day, how many conversations do you have typically every day?
In my prospecting time, anywhere between 7 to 12 usually. I convert at a really high rate. I use Sisu for this so I can check my conversion. My conversation to appointment ratio with the type of business that I run for my personal production is like 23%.
Wow.
It's super high.
That's
Uh,
as high as I've seen.
it's very high. In fact, if I pull it up on Sisu, it's probably right around there. I have a lot of repeat business. A lot of the people I'm talking to are only people that I really know. So I'm not generally prospecting a new database or new leads. For me, it's more like prospecting an existing database and just kind of like dialing into basically this like well of opportunity that I've built with working for Salisbury Homes. And this is why I said it was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, because without them, I would not have this massive database to prospect.
Mhm.
When I started prospecting back with them, I was calling new leads in the model home, setting appointments for their product. And when I was planning on leaving Salisbury, those first 6 months of 21, all I did was just take that prospecting time away from new leads. And I just turned it into working on the people that I had already sold homes to. and basically just worked on making relationships with them, finding out if they had opportunities. I started looking into systems a lot those first 6 months.
Why is that important to you?
Well, because I had built the systems for Salisbury Homes. When I got hired with them, they didn't have any systems. They didn't have anything to track the lots available. And so I had quickly found out that if I was going to make a transition somewhere, the systems that I used were really important to the success of my own personal business. But back to your original question, you asked me why a team. And
Yeah.
when I left Salisbury, even though I had had such success in those first 6 months of like really getting ready to leave, I had imposter syndrome so bad when I finally left. It was horrible. I didn't think I'd ever be able to make enough or do enough or be as successful as just the sheer amount of work and people I was connecting with Salisbury. And so I went on this like adventure, almost like a quest to find like some insight into what other people are doing and what the next big step for me was going to be. And it really came out to be what really ended up motivating me was I connected with team leaders and people within the industry. Somebody I really look up to, Barry Jenkins. I connected with him. I connected with Dan Beer with the Beer Home team, like all these people within the industry. And then I started digging into systems and I just started meeting all these people and seeing the level of production they do in these team leader situations. And in my head, I was like, this is really cool. Because I said, I don't really think I'm going to get out of production because I have the time. I may as well do it. And it's a well of a lot of opportunity for me. But I really find some motivation out of these team leaders and just that it's like checks the box for me on giving back to something because I got really good at prospecting. I got really good at sales. And I was like, I could share this information. And that started exciting me. And so from basically the 6 months of Salisbury, the latter 6 months, I was in production, but I was building out the foundation of Genuine, which was so motivating to me. It motivated me every single day to have like this opportunity to build out these really cool systems and capitalize on it and then slowly start bringing people into my world and teaching them. And it motivated me. It was like this idea of being able to give back and teach, like it just like checked the box for me. I don't know exactly why or how, but it motivated me more than just my own production, just because I was so familiar with production and I was like already doing so many deals that wasn't satisfying me anymore. What really started satisfying me was this culture in my head that I was starting to build. Essentially, a company that I envisioned in my head that was like as efficient as the systems I had built for Salisbury. And Salisbury is a very efficient company, but it wasn't a very like culturally great company to work for. I wanted something that was like super motivating, that almost was like kind of like a lifestyle, I guess, if that makes sense. So that ambition to build that is what kind of drove me into making a team.
Okay,
And
so
it,
you did all this research, went and talked to these top team owners, and Barry and Dan are both great team leaders. Love both those guys, and I know you've talked to a lot of others as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So, what did you find out? Like, you're all about systems,
Well, that
and
was a
you're
big
actually
thing.
coaching people now on
Yeah,
systems.
yeah.
So, what did you find out? Like, what systems do you use in your business?
Well, definitely Sisu. That's why we're here, right?
Well, there's a lot of
um,
people that come on here that don't use Sisu, but
they should be, but no. So I started with Follow Up Boss. I looked at every CRM under the sun. And really what settled me on Follow Boss was how fast it was and just the ability to plug in. Because in my head, I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to be a catch-all be all. Like this is the only system I use business. I want to be able to do all sorts of businesses. So like being able to plug different lead sources in, different marketing systems, that open API was really attracted to me. So it all really started with Follow Up Boss. And then I started looking at like things that plugged in well. And so I obviously really looked up to Barry and saw what he was doing with him. And so I was like, okay, well, Ylopo seems like a really great system to plug into my business. And it worked out great. And the support there was awesome. The community has been great. And honestly, being able to just chat with Barry and go speak at their events has been awesome. Like just the community alone has been really cool. It's not only helped me build out the foundation for what we do within the team, but it's also given me opportunities. I have a ton of referral contracts written because of the community there. I've had a lot of speaking events that I've been able to go do. And it's really given me more opportunity than I originally thought it would. That, just the pursuit of looking at systems. And then as I talked to these guys, I really found that accountability was such a huge word that kept coming back up in everything that we were, they were trying to do. And that's always the constant thing, is like trying to keep your agents accountable and making sure. In my head too, the other thing that I was looking for was, how do I make sure that when I'm doing all these deals and we're as big as we want to be, how do I make sure things don't fall through the cracks?
Hmm.
Like what can I build to protect my agents from making mistakes? Because they're bound to make mistakes. They're humans, and especially the new agents that we hire. And so accountability and systems to manage those faults has started becoming kind of an obsession for me. And I started implementing it, task oriented systems, things that I can replicate or rehire for really easily, stuff like that. I started building. And then all of a sudden, like 4 or 5 months later, we had this amazing system in place. And I was like, I'm ready to recruit. I'm ready to start recruiting. I think with what I have here, I have no fear of bringing somebody into my business. And so we started recruiting, and we started slow at first. My first year, I only recruited like 3 or 4 agents. And then they're still with me, and I kind of used them as guinea pigs, as far as like, here's a system, let's break it,
Yeah. So before you did that, you had Sisu for agent accountability, and you also had it for basically call it task management, transaction
Mhm.
management. What is it that made you feel like, okay, I'm at a place where I can bring more agents in?
I felt like, okay, so St. George in general is the biggest small town ever. And when I originally started this whole idea, I was like, I'm going to go so big. I was with Real Broker. I wanted to build teams all over the US. I wanted to be able to have like something that was packaged that I could plug in different places when I brought on these micro teams. And that's originally why I scaled it and built it the way I did. But then interest rates went up. And so I decided to kind of refocus with the help of who is now runs my day to day. And he's actually a partner within our business. His name's Nathan. We refocused and we decided to be more local, hyper local, if you say. And so we took this big idea of being able to plug this foundation in, and we just centralized it around the agents itself, and just started figuring out like, how can we take this smaller team and just make these agents produce at a higher pace. And Sisu is still something that we have to be able to do that. Like, we can't not have that data, and not even just the data from the agent side, the data from our ROI, from our lead sources, our conversion amounts, like. And honestly, at this point too, we can't even run our transaction management without it. The way
Yeah.
we've built it, it's so automated and dialed in that it's just such a huge part of not only our accountability side, but that safety net that I talked about, where we don't let things kind of fall through the cracks, because it's not missed anymore.
I think the secret sauce of Sisu, after watching people implement it over the last 6 years, is really being able to use the system to run your processes so things don't drop through the cracks. And by doing so, you now have real-time reporting at your fingertips 24/7. It's not like you need to go have some financial person prepare a weekly report or a monthly report. It's
Right.
all just there because
Yeah.
that's the system you run things through. And it was built to provide you with the data and be your data warehouse.
Yeah.
So you have all the information at your fingertips.
And that's huge for us. We still send out reports to our agents individually every week, so they can see, not only is it up on our TVs in our office, but they get their own individualized reports that come out, that are there where they're at for the week, where they're at for the month, where they're at trending for the quarter, and where they're trending for the year. And that report goes out to them every week, and that's something that we have put into effect that has been super helpful. But it's
Cool.
real estate's tough as a team leader, and somebody who, all of my agents are young on my team. I have a bunch of young agents. My highest producing agent will do like 35, 30 transactions this year. He's 25.
Why young? Why did you choose to go that route? And by the way, most of the top teams that I meet with, that's what they choose. You could
Yeah,
talk to Greg Harrelson, who is, in my opinion, one of the best leaders in this industry. He's over at C21, and he'll flat out tell you, I don't recruit from other people because I don't want to pick up their bad habits. I
that's
want to train
exactly
them my way.
that's exactly my mindset. I like young, hungry people that are moldable and want to be here full time. And really for us, that's like to access our team. We don't just recruit anybody. We're very particular with who we bring in. In fact, we make them shadow for quite some time before we actually hire them, just to make sure they're going to be a good fit within our culture. But we like younger people who are trainable and give us the full-time effort because we found that there's no bad habits. And generally, it's just a better fit. We're kind of a younger crowd. Like I dress like this most days. Like I'm not like
Wait, let
we're
me see.
not
What are you wearing there?
just a
Oh
little
yeah, you see, everyone should dress in
there
Sisu
you
gear.
go.
I like that.
And a hat and just really casual. I wear Converse like every single day, and it's like a kind of like a Soho casual way to do real estate. And it's quite honestly, if you come to St. George, there's not much of that vibe around here. There isn't. There's a lot of like stuffy, like suit and tie type real estate that's done here, and we just decided to kind of go the opposite direction. And Young just kind of works with it. It attracts. I think our culture, we have two sides of it. We have the accountability side, which is heavy accountability. Not a lot of people see it. So when we finally do interview people, they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize you guys had all this. We just thought you were a cool brand."
Hmm.
And it's like, well, yeah, we want to do both. The brand, the forefront is intentional. It's supposed to be like that. It's different than what people are used to, and that's on purpose. And that idea came when we decided to go more local. It was like, okay, well, then how do we stand out within our local community? And that really has been our driving force for the last 3 years. And funny enough, year three, we are top five of real estate teams in Southern Utah, like easily.
Year three.
Year
Year
three.
three. So why do you think, like, what is it? And you've talked about a lot of stuff you've done, but what is
Yeah.
it that has made you go from zero to top five in 3 years? Because that's a massive accomplishment. Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
If you've been enjoying Grit, please help us continue to grow the channel by leaving a 5-star review and sharing it with a friend. Now back to Grit.
I think it's just the constant dedication of trying to just move the needle forward 1% every day. That's like on our walls. We say it every day, just 1%, just constantly trying to drive the needle forward, whether it's within our business and our clients or on our business. It's something, if I look at my task list, because I keep a constant task list, there's just little things, like for me, like I do yearly redesign of kind of like our branding, which keeps it interesting. It keeps people kind of engaged with what we're doing. We put on events this year. We already did one event this year, was our summer bash, and we did bounce houses and a dunk tank, and we had this huge event. We had like 340 or 350 people come, which was awesome because it's our clients, it's people within the community that we like, people who support our business. In October, we're doing puppies and Porsches, and we're going to do a drive for animals and a car show with live music. We
Love it.
always try to attach some type of charitable event to it, but it's different. Not a lot of people do stuff like that here. And so I think with the constant just accountability that our agents are receiving every day, the sales training, which we coach on Socratic selling, I have made it a dedicated effort to not ever put a script in front of my agents. They don't have any scripts. We teach them on how to have proper empathetic conversations that drive the needle forward for them. And it takes them a little bit longer to learn that process. But once they get it, they convert. I'll take them from a 3 to 4% conversation to appointment met ratio. And in 90 days, they'll be 10 to 12% conversation to appointment ratio.
That's incredible. So you're basically teaching them how to ask great questions and how to listen.
Exactly. And funny enough, it's what I do in the business now. And I kind of mentioned this, that I'm wearing a lot of hats. And, we're at the near end of the messy middle. My role within the company is branding, marketing. That's still something that I'm heavily involved in. I'm very like kind of particular on what goes out, especially with our video content. We do a lot of video content. I'm head of like recruiting, and I even onboard our agents still for the first day. Like they're involved with me. I'm head of sales training, so we have a Tuesday, Thursday role plays that they're in, and then every other Wednesday we have a dedicated sales training, and then Friday afternoons I'm running a listing class that's open to all agents in Southern Utah, and that is basically what I do for the company. Now, why the team runs so efficiently is because right off the bat, when I had the systems in place, I realized that I couldn't be everywhere at all once. So I brought somebody in to run the day to day. His name's Nathan Mayo. He's a great friend of mine, one of my best friends, if not my best friend. And I was a little hesitant to bring my best friend into my business, but he had experience running 20, 30 person agent team. And I needed somebody that could run that side of the day to day. So contractual questions, compliance, ROI, where our agents are at, the conversations having, all the stuff that needs to be managed. Nathan's running all that day to day so that I can focus on what I'm really good at, which is one, converting at a high rate for my personal business, but then two, the bigger picture stuff for the real estate team.
Yeah. You talked about the messy middle. You say you're just about out of it. When you talk about the messy middle, what does that mean to you? What is the messy middle?
Means I'm everywhere all at once with not enough time to have and
Wearing all hats. You just
every single
described
ad.
wearing about 8 different hats. So,
Yeah. So it's a lot. But right now I can, for a lot of people, it's not a good place to be. It tends to overwhelm them. And I think I'm getting to a point now in my life that it's starting to feel like that. So what we've done is I've started offloading anything that I possibly can, writing contracts, listing acquisitions. Like I'll still go on listing appointments, but I'm starting to offload writing all my contracts. Like I'm starting to offload inputting listings or prepping listings, like even listing updates, like as much as I possibly can to take off things that my time isn't spent well. I'm starting to finally offload those things and hire for them because we have finally got to a place where our foundation is so strong that we can just kind of expect the agents that we've hired to do the job that they've been hired for, and we're not having to babysit them anymore.
yeah.
And we're not like letting them run free. We're still expectation accountability. But for example, today Nathan was gone. He's on the last day of his vacation. I came in. I still ran role plays this morning, and I'm happy to do so. It's my company, and I love that part of it. I love connecting with my agents, especially after a long weekend. But the rest of the morning, I knew my agents would be prospecting and working on what they need to work on. And I can peek at what they're doing for the day. And I can see that, they're all prospecting. Every single one of them are prospecting. There's not a single agent on my team that hasn't made over 60 dials already today.
Are
So,
you looking at that right now as we speak?
yeah. So, yep. Yep. Looking at right here.
Love it.
So,
I
everyone
love
that
it.
was in today, 51. This guy had 4 conversations, set an appointment. So I'm peeking at all those numbers. And I look at them periodically, but most of the time, Nathan's peeking at this and making sure that we are actually hitting those numbers that we're supposed to be hitting.
So you guys are
Um,
living in Sisu, living in Follow Up Boss, and leveraging your systems so that you can, I like to say, when you think of getting out of the messy middle, let me ask you first, what does that mean to you? Like to be out of that. Of course, you're leveraging getting as much offloaded as possible right now, which is what
yeah,
you should be doing. What's the next step? What does that look like to be out of the messy middle?
it means that I can just focus on what I'm good at, really, for me, and what I enjoy doing. Really, at the end of the day, my business really thrives at the low hanging fruit, like opportunity that's put in front of me. I convert at a really high pace, so I'm better off spent converting at opportunity put in front of me. So that allows me, things like having a personal assistant set up more appointments for me to go on, stuff like that for my production. I don't want to be out of production. I feel like prospecting next to my agents really helps them learn at a higher rate. And so really getting out of the messy middle is just kind of doing the things that I really enjoy doing within my company, and some of the things that I don't enjoy doing. I don't want to be doing compliance and dealing with commission questions and like
You
I
want to focus
don't.
on the things you enjoy, which are your passion, which are what you're good at.
Yeah, and I
That's great.
think my quality of life is happier, and I have the time to do what I need to if I have to step in and do it. I don't have any kids yet. My wife and I want them, but we just have our 2 big dogs, and she works for Utah Tech full time, and so we both are just within our careers and we're working and we're kind of just building a life that we really love, and we just want to do things that we enjoy. So
When I got on the phone with you this morning, I asked how you're doing. The first thing you said was, I'm busier than I've ever been.
yeah, yep,
Now, how could that be? Like, you've been in this business now for 9 years. You've been through the ebb and flow of the hard time of 2020 and then the last half of 2020 and
yeah,
2021, where things were just crazy.
right.
How are you busier today than you've ever been? Because some people are living out of fear and they're not that busy right now. So I want you to share, like, what are you doing to be busier than you've ever been?
Well, to comment on that, there's not an ounce of fear in my office. There's not an ounce of negativity in there either. It just doesn't exist because we have found that there is a solution to everything. When the NAR stuff came out, we were already trained on it and we were already coaching our agents on how to handle that. And because we are a smaller, more nimble team, our agents aren't scared of it. There was no fear to be had with it. And so I think part of being busier is understanding that this change that's happening with interest rates and the NAR and everything, if it does change anything, it's just going to open up more opportunity for us. There's more market share to take over now. Another huge aspect of being busier than we ever have is I just think that constant approach of just working the database and things kind of ebb and flow a bit, but we've gotten way more intentional at working our database and way more intentional about how we're connecting with our past clients and connecting with our current, new clients. As far as like our prospecting goes, if I pull up any reports that I have on Follow Up Boss, I think our average contact attempt on brand new leads for the year is like 22 times within the first 3 or 4 days. Like we're very aggressive. And so we've just really honed that skill to be able to convert at a higher pace. I really want to make sure every single one of my agents are producing and living a life they want. And so we've put an intentional focus on really trying to just dial in on each person as much as we possibly can. And I don't ever want that to change, but I think as we grow, which is just a natural case of things, we're already at, as next Monday, I'm onboarding 2 more agents. So we'll be at 14 agents for my team, which is the biggest we've ever been. I really want to try to continue to hone that intentional one-on-one opportunity that we give every single person. So I think with that, to kind of recap, the one-on-one intentionalness for each of our agents, the database management that we've really implemented, a lot of our systems help this too, especially a lot of our drip systems that we have, seller reports that we go out, our text automations, our AI automations. We just try to hit every part of the business. There isn't just like one source for us. Like we're not even a Zillow team. We don't even do Zillow leads. We are primarily PPC and Facebook, but we capitalize on every single aspect of our pillars that we can, which is like social media, circle prospecting, door knocking, open houses. Like we try to do every bit of that business and coach on every little thing because there isn't like one part of that business is the catch-all be all. Every person that we hire is different. I have some agents that really like door knocking. So I got them very good at door knocking and understanding that process a bit better. There's some agents that have a great presence on social media. So our team is offered to, hey, if you have content that you want to do for social media, we'll pay for it. We'll brand it and we'll put it out there. As long as it's within our culture and our brand image, like we are happy to do that because it's great for our image. I have agents that love circle prospecting. So we set up times that they get on the circle prospecting after they've done their initial prospecting and it's an addition to their business. So for us, it's like really intentional one-on-one coaching that's helped our business. But then that database management, I think, has been huge for us.
When I listen to you, I think the reason you're so busy right now is because you guys are not letting the market control you, but you're controlling the market. You're just doing the things you have to do. One of the things you mentioned that you didn't go into detail on when you talked about your 4 pillars really is open houses. Talk about open houses. How often do your agents, are they required to do open houses? How often do they do open
When
houses?
they're new on our team and we onboard them, we require them to do 5 within their first month.
Okay. And
But
then ongoing, what does that look like?
there's not necessarily a requirement, but it's more like our culture drives it. So I have every single week our agents are doing some type of open house, whether it's
Yeah.
on a Saturday or during the week. Like it's just I keep having to order more open house signs.
My opinion is that right now in this market, every agent should do at least an open house a week.
Oh, I agree. It's been great, but we utilize our systems for it, which I think is, I don't know how people do open houses without it. With YLOPO and how they engage we register all, we have like a 90% registration on our open houses. We kind of, I hate to say it, but we almost kind of gatekeep our open houses a little bit.
You should.
And so our agents register someone, it's absolutely expected. If they do an open house and I follow up with every single agent on their open houses, it's something that I do intentionally. And they get somebody that came in and they weren't registered. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, this is rule number one. You're not going to be able to do any more open houses unless you register these people. because it registers them, it sets them up on a home search, it asks for feedback, it gets you in front of them, it puts our brand in front of them. It's just a good experience. And so our open house conversion ratio is high because we're so intentional with trying to get in front of those people. So our agents like them. They like doing open houses. I literally like Friday put another order in for 25 more open house signs because we keep running out. So
Yeah,
it's been great.
Good. All right. So two more questions for you, and then we'll wrap up. One, I want to hear more about your coaching. You're working with teams to help them set up systems and better sales processes. Let's
Yeah.
just talk about that a little bit because I think some of these people here, even though you're a young team, you're now 14 agents and you're crushing it. How many homes do you expect to sell this year?
What we have this year, we'll probably do 150 to 180 sides, somewhere in there.
Okay. Okay.
Which for Southern Utah, as far as sides go on real estate teams, that'll put us top three, is
Okay.
expected by the end of the year.
So let's talk about what you do to how did it come about that you're now helping other teams, set up their systems and their
I
self.
think it just kind of came out organically. It's just something that we do privately. It's not something that we're super loud about or like publicizing, but I have a lot of companies that reach out to me and essentially just kind of say, "Hey, I have this person interested. Could they ask you questions or give you insight?" And within those conversations of those questions being not, asked, I have found that it's so many teams are so lost on like how their flow of leads should be or how their follow-up should be or like what proper follow-up looks like or how to motivate their agents to use their tools or even just accessing things for the most part to make it easy. So a lot of the stuff we coach on is like I'll generally start with SOPs. I'll ask most team leaders. In fact, I just had a guy reach out to me who is looking into getting into, he already has Sisu, but he's looking into switching into Follow Boss. And Kyler from Sisu reached out to me to kind of say, "Hey, could you give him some insight on how this looks?" And I said, "Great, yeah." And a lot of the conversation I talk about is, "Hey, do you have SOPs? Have you ever thought about building SOPs or what those look like?" We coach on how to establish SOPs and we've it's kind of funny. So a lot of people use Slack for their business for communications. We use Discord, which is a gaming app, but it syncs a little bit better than Slack does. So we've built all of our SOP channels and all of our communication channels through Discord. And so we coach on setting stuff up like that, setting up their follow-up boss, setting up, answering questions regarding their syncings, setting up, even coaching on how we set up our client portals for Sisu. I've had so many agents reach out to me and be like, "Hey, how are you guys keeping your clients updated? We noticed that you're sending out videos." I said, "Yeah, we send out videos and they're part of our client portal within Sisu on our 10-step process. And here's how we do it. And if you'd like to have something set up similar to that, we will charge a fee, but we help people and we coach them on getting it done." And it's been primarily just like a private thing that we do just to kind of help generate business and just build the community up a little bit. So it's nothing that I've had much time and intention to put towards, but I think as we have this people reaching out, it's been fairly consistent that I think we'll eventually probably capitalize and probably build genuine coaching or something like that on systems and sales ability and processes.
So JD, if somebody wants to learn more about that and talk to you about that, what's the best way for them to reach you?
They can email me, jd@genuineutah.com.
Okay. JD@genuineutah.com. If you guys are watching this, you'll see genuine on the hat.
There it is.
You mentioned the client portal there. I wasn't planning on asking you this question, so I said two more questions, but now I just had another one come up because I just want to know, like, what are you leveraging the client portal for? And what is the client portal? I mean, Sisu has this client portal.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute because my opinion is that this is the next decade of real estate. Like, I don't care what it is that you order. For me, I like to use DoorDash as the example because my kids order DoorDash every day and they know when the DoorDash shows up on the steps without anybody ringing our doorbell.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What does the client portal mean to you as far as your real estate team and how you deliver to that client?
It's the pizza tracker for your real estate deal. That's what it is. It's like it tells you where everything's at. And for us, I mentioned it before, but I was really trying to figure out a way that nothing fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
And so if we ever have clients that are like, "Oh, we didn't know what the process was," I was like, "That's not true. Here's why." We sent you the emails. We showed you where you're at in your process and you've had access to this. So we automate all the emails. We invite them to it and it's used. They really appreciate it. And so for me, it was primarily a way to be like, hey, I want to make sure our processes are outlined and that even our new agents who are doing deals, their clients understand that where they're at, even if the agent doesn't understand the level of cadence they need for their follow-up. So for us, that's been a big part of our business for sure.
So it is key to have great communication.
Yeah,
So
it's
if I
been
hear
a
you
big
correctly,
communication.
client yeah, cool. All right. Last question I have for you. You're a Porsche enthusiast. We need to drive together, but
Yes,
that's
sir.
not my question. That's a statement. What is your favorite Porsche?
I would say a 964, but it has to be super mint. That's my favorite. If I think of like the best looking dream Porsche would be like super mint, blacked out 964, just an older, like a
Like
1990, like a 91.
Does that mean you're talking like a RWB or are you talking like a Gunther Works or
Gunther
are
Works
you
would
just
be
talking
amazing, but honestly, like anything, I would
just a
love to just
clean?
build it out myself. They made the 964 in 1993, which is when I was born. And so like I guess my year date 964 would be
Oh,
pretty
that would be
cool.
cool. Those are amazing, amazing cars. They're beautiful.
I used to really like the 993s, but I think I had just overall love the 964s. They're so sick. They're a
So
dream car for sure. I'm gonna get one soon.
so just like you guys listen to JD about real estate, what he's doing there, listen to him about Porsches too, because he knows what he's talking about. All right, JD, it's been fun. Thanks
Yeah.
for joining me on the Grit Podcast. For all you listeners, thanks again for joining and listening. Again, you guys listening is what allows me to get guests like JD on the show. And there's so much to learn from these guys. So take advantage of it. They're open to sharing. And like if you want help with your systems, if you want help with sales processes, don't hesitate to reach out to JD.
You can come hang out with us. Just come fly to St. George and you can come hang out with our team for a few days. We're an open door. So
And St. George has some of the best mountain biking and golfing in the world. So
we got the PGA now. Let's go.
yeah, exactly. That's right next to my house down there too. So
Yeah, it's a great spot.
all right. Thanks everyone. We'll catch you next week. JD, thanks again.
Thank you for joining us on our podcast. If you have an interest in a free 7-day trial of Sisu, go to sisu.co, sisu.co. Make sure that you use the coupon code GRIT, that's GRIT, to waive all your setup fees and receive a 10% discount on your subscription. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to subscribe, search GRIT, the Real Estate Growth Mindset, on iTunes, Spotify, or Podbean. And with that, we'll catch you next time. Take care.